Hello, American. Hello, Human Species Volume Science. It's all grouped names, but now note through systems tactical area than the one that uses for hypercorrelation. How and why species bodies of volume, the other animals, the, even the birds, even the insects with consciousness, and we know this just from experience. The nature of the debate, though, the nature of debate individually grouped in together, all simultaneous voicings for all natures of, for the sciences' names. They have left out the words of those sciences, and we know this many ways. But then again, at all formal platforms for speech, for communications, which is greater than and more finite than speech, and it is an active identity relativity to speech that speech alone can't be, because it is itself that which is hyper simultaneous. That which is the identity of value progression that does not leave out, while it is itself, as what caused our species to have the same quality aspects and natures as other species bodies. For example, two eyes. And we have two black pupils and whites of eyes. And we were supposed to see the whites of eyes before we shoot. And simultaneously, we were forced to shoot as modern countries A through Z, the same way semi ancients were, if we examine what is actually proper data, evidence, and facts uses simultaneously. The difference of that. The same reason there are five distinct identities of truth that can be simultaneously positive or not, where and how nature itself shows us the difference between positive, that is criminal and city sense nature, or positive or not. Honest and proper interpretations of the law, voicings from, I'm not even a lawyer. I'm not even a doctor. The doctors of mental health, reasons, the experts on describing how reason works. They have stayed criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, roles with that entrenched for them to get away with it, which designed the suburbs before our founders were born, Americans, Russians, Ukraine, China. China and Russia and America, before they were modern names, their lands had already been used criminally foreign influence. Individuals forced to defend themselves by valuing groupings of humanity as volume science uses of names employed tactical ulterior from how the identity of the hypersimultaneous employed our names, and to teach us about the difference between the five distinct identities of positive and or of time. For example, I have one as the value of sequence before the smallest finite detail. Two, as the order of the finite and finite details. Three, as the order of what is grouped and as it is grouped and how it is grouped and why it is grouped actually, with practicality and proper passion uses, em- emotions and passions serve a function to discern if people are using the hyper system, if there's leaving out the smallest finite detail, no. If they're leaving out the value of what came first, even if everyone agrees to go along with the things that were involved with history, nature will continue to demonstrate negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures with that. And with the breaching method, no, it would simultaneously be demonstrating that breaching method to everyone too. A hyper archetypal criminal enterprise, if you will. A breaching method, if you won't. And if you want to deny that a breaching method is recorded, associated with slash hyper recorded, hyper evidentially recorded, regarding history, your logic, your reason inherently, actively, progressively, increasingly It's going to have nature itself and as itself in demonstration the same thing. See criminal insidiousness. See its association with criminal foreign influences, not because the species volume holds our names together and apart. And one way, every individual looking a little bit like the other ones, more than themselves. For example, how the ancients more probably taught this languages individually grouped together in English, how English was revealed to teach. The music, the sciences, share an identity. The notes individually grouped and together. One way, a little bit, or the other note sounds a little bit more like itself. But then when they have that group relationship, then the other one looks like the other one's more, and they have individually coupled and grouped the notes and the chords in all aspects of every instrument, of every sound, everything, every the smallest finite detail has 5 identities of possession, has 1/3/5 identities of possession, where all exceptions, exception nature appears to be in demonstration of other. They're a demonstration of the same thing plus 2 hyper simultaneously. How hyper additional nature works. Where and how more of the identity of the hyper simultaneous. That is also distinct as the identity of forever nature, which is the identity the 5 parts of time have. The 5 distinct, the 1/3/5 distinct identities of time. It is the value, hyper simultaneous, hyper native, therefore, as what shows us the only increasing value of indigenous populations, let alone Americans, as more important to us, or to other groupings of humanity, or any individual to speak for humanity. The human volume science is an individual body of individuals. All group difference /s are in demonstration of the same thing: ages, areas, sexes, manifest, species volume, body of volume, invisible but still discernible, correlatively /hypercorrelatively. So, in other words, every campus we went to, every campus I went to, too, and names next to it, were influenced to victim predator /hyper victim, hyper predator roles, with where and how also attached to faked and changed communications. Everyone loves and loved all of our education, things like that. We even understood when people had reasons because their job made them do this and separate this from this. The sciences are bridged, for example. We have, and they were left that way. It has direct relativity to where and how we're a little kid when we first have means to discern adults and kids in collusion, pretending things are practical that aren't, because they have to hide live progressions from other locations. And it's timed collusions with all the nations in the news, all the countries. Russians and Russia and China was here before our founders were born. And it was involved with the tortures of their own people since semi-ancient times. You guys cannot speak, you guys cannot afford all that is capable of being discerned. What science is showing us, honest science shows us that yin yang and that alpha and omega were revealed to be taught together, more probably and demonstrably. Yin yang is about the constant, the hyper constant. And which is equal to the constant /variable / the value of the contemplation that comes with that, like how and why. Each individual asks questions and is curious in this consciousness, in this quality of diffusion. For example, that is not reception alone. That is the quality of diffusion that the gases and that the water and its elements have with the cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall. The cell body is visible, but still is visible. A distinct sequence nature of a complete, with that comes with the cell wall /S, because they also connect there, and the cell nucleus, which is like semi physical but still discernible, and I mean physically discernible. And the wall /S has the gases and the water coming in and out as a quality of diffusion, which is one of the definitions for the word diffusion. See, words have more than one definition. And they have distinct dictionaries. For doctors, for example, this has been our founders left us to demonstrate such things overtly / insidiously used by a breaching method, criminally foreign influence / hypercriminally foreign influence. The species volume, again, it has and needs our names independent and unity at the same time. The difference of that too at the same time equally, because it communicates with difference. We have the same color eyes, but we have different color eyes at the same time. And there are exceptions where people have the same color eyes. Totally. And then some of those people have different color skin. Some people have the same color skin too, generally. We have not had addressed where the colors of skin was assigned and further employed simultaneously, additionally, / hyper additionally, to mean and be used for a breaching method. Rather than have that blamed for it and observed a part of it, other things, others ourselves, we're blamed for that. To understand this, you have to understand what is actually discernible, and has actually been recorded. When you hear people rushing in to speak, they want to make legislation. They want to make, change using other people's words or using their own words, leaving out this. But then the politics, both sides are criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. This breaching method knew that we would have to use since semi-ancient times. We, being human volume science, species volume of individual grouped, individual 1 plus, group 2 pluses or more, but not the whole thing, and then 3 pluses, left to right, with the ancient snow people. The first plus symbolizes the, is a hyper addition, and is hyper additional reception and diffusion and contemplation of that diffusion with the science of pantheism / hyperpantheism per the ancient gaming system and per hyper programming. I shouldn't have to in ways everyone, because of the roles of databases since before computers, with all location /s, with this identity of value / value progression, possession / hyper possession, and the different and or the difference of that, and where and how this is manifest in our syntax nature. Again, with the quality of debate and the nature of debate and the difference of that. See criminal insidiousness. See, now nature itself shows us that they grouped criminal enterprises wrong, as collusions with them. All sides of criminal and civil cases including ones involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and things that the interbranch and other which have nothing to do with that, where they do. Because all sides in criminal and civil cases, the names interbranch, names of the hallway, their neighbors, their family members, all those things are used to measure and maintain collusions with predicate action with facts before everyone took your oaths. And this is relative to the revelations that come from not just knowing we have black pupils, whites of eyes. They left this out with the conversation. They left the breaching method out with the conversation. We have to appreciate the identity of simultaneous as reality, tactical theory. They have criminally foreign influenced readings of definitions and of statutes and of precedents. Definitions like of reality. So, and they have once they have that entertained, as the breaching method force sustained, then our founders were born. The suburbs are already designed. Everyone's reliant now upon the only means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures more and more is to self-value roles with criminal insidiousness natures of positives as collusions with negatives to screen and to worse. And work for the breaching method, not even realizing, not wanting to be. This was hyper sophistication here before our founders were born. So the suburb is the only reason they're self-valued. All exceptions, exception nature, and demonstration, the same thing. It's because Hartford, sickly distinctly from New York, for example. Hartford is a suburban/urban, as it was set up by the breaching method that was measured and maintained. Who's going to become a unity? Who's going to become independence relative to these crazy laws we have had sustained on people through people that already had sustained through themselves? So everyone's blaming other things, others themselves. Who's not gonna? All these identities of industries as names too, and all the humanity voicings. They're entertaining that with the breaching method called blamed on other things, others themselves, even when truths exactly where the breaching method needs. White, per the definition of white, in other words, Native Americans are white. In other words, Latinos are white. So everyone wants to make culture what it's not, leaving out the breaching method rules since semi-ancient times, before modern religions. Both the Old Testament and the Quran have parts right in the front of it that say all someone has to defend is right to hear. All someone has to know is right to hear. It even qualifies it in the Quran, saying, for example, someone should not pray in the mosque for the slightest reason. They sense. With their interpretation of the identity of the hyper simultaneous, which is my transliteration of English translation of the Quran. And the beginning of the Old Testament says all someone has to know is right up to here, where the names of the people, the sciences will come together. And I'm saying this is because the sciences share an identity, where and how they appear not to. That is phenomena associated with the phenomenon of how it is hyper additional nature. For example, how it is what came before the smallest finite detail now. Like the smallest finite detail about the republic for which we stand. Even if we are one of the bodies of the rest of the species body with some other republic. Or exceptions that won't be a republic for some reason. That's also employed by nature. Nature shows us increasingly to value the use of, how functional, the identity of the hyper invisible but still discernible is distinct invisible but still discernible. All parts of speech and the parts of English are about all parts of speech are about the invisible but still discernible. A verb is about the invisible but still discernible. Why and how there are 7 names for a verb is about the hyper invisible but still discernible. Is about its identity of relationship to itself equally valued. And is about the value of that equally valued too, only increasing. And this comes with the value of sequence true before that, what is really true always. And it comes with the value of truth, of knowing there's an extent we don't know about, but trying to know about it anyway. And this is a form of contemplation, a method of it, per science, that use the word prayer more probably and more practically, and demonstrably, increasingly, all kinds of ways. Other than we are being allowed to have discerned because of the quality of fact should be nature. There are collusions, there is identity racketeering worse than war crimes. So we are only supposed to defend right up to those parts. People want to fight with the rest of the Old Testament and Quran. You want to use the knowledge of good and evil. No, which is after the part where it says in the Old Testament, all one has to do is know right up to here. So time is 5 distinct identities of order, of power, of might. And there are 3 ways bound too. And where there are singular ways, they're all in demonstration of the hypersingular. There's only one identity that is a semi-nature that is still positive unto itself, always, increasingly. And that is, thank God, the identity of the hyper-simultaneous that is not completely here. But anywhere the smallest piece of itself is, even if someone makes something up, its complete identity of relationship to itself is inseparable from the smallest finite part of that. It is inseparable from its relativity to what came first. It is inseparable from its group details distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously, slash hyper simultaneously too, and to its simultaneous values. So if you make a painting, if you make a program, it's individual grouped and together, it's simultaneous parts. Those are 3 distinct volume sciences, non-distinct and simultaneous, but further hyper simultaneously valued. And that is simultaneous. That further value, the further hyper, that further can be positive or negative, relative to a special difference too, being shown to us by nature, that has us conscious of Earth's difference. How it could stay here as an identity of relationship to itself, as its system also bows down to itself, or we could ignore its system. And therefore, that's an identity of relationship to itself with a special difference that forces it from here, itself as itself, where how it won't be itself, but stays out anyway. So it forces it from here, least of Hadith, forced space nature transfer. I've never heard of it defined that way. Least of Hadith, least is like a river, but it's more so nature as identity. Identity is relativity, positive and negative simultaneously, the same way value is because it's the identity that completes everything. That no value is inseparable from. It is making more of itself, where we can't be itself, but we, but anyway, but we are anyway. And we can, again, we could stay ignoring its system. It had answers for us. How to interpret and speak for the Constitution on a bridge. Black pupils. With this hyper additionally too. See, we are appreciating a list of things, boxings, that takes conjunction to the slash s. Conjunction is plural too, because this uses the relativity of slash hyper relativity of everything to the hyper relativity. The hyper simultaneous is a scientific value, just like the breaching method that assigned witch trial laws, real or made up too. When you hear, okay, there were witch trial laws associated with our American history, associated with our founding locations, no. Then they measure and maintain through the people pretending to help us, saying, oh, there are a whole bunch of things they lied to you about in high school, in grammar school. And they give some examples. They're being used for their own motivations and stuff like that too, to screen the breaching method, measuring and maintaining the real cause of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and scientific values, like the breaching method, which of our appreciation of that would have shown us needs to counter a hyper criminally foreign influenced, a hyper archetypal criminal enterprise, and to conceive as modern as archetypal criminal enterprises, countries A through Z, and equally with the overt criminal enterprises and private ones originally and still. That's all recorded clear as day. Many pray. So the nature of debate, they can't afford it to be at locations quality because of uses of the difference. Readings of statutes with the difference of interbranch, and we're increasingly putting fake reality into databases. And so this became too expensive, where and how expense and stuff, all that was employed by the torture, extortion, slavery method, the breaching method. For better than free, easier than free, we could have solved needs we have. We're being taxed for them. There's pilfering of tax money. There's a covering up of it by pretending to be against it, including the experts on everything. The counters to types of abuses of people and with their differences involved. This breaching method employed all formal and private identity speaking for all differences, used by itself to measure and maintain itself left out. For example, the breaching method, measured and maintained left out as a scientific value with reason. It measures and maintains all the ways, so many ways at once, criminally foreign influence and tactically delusions are all fact, human nature, quality aspects and natures to the voices speaking on mental health in the news, especially the ones who are doctors, especially regarding their roles with speaking about negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and per how and why, and actually how they why no unfold with such sacred locations like emergency rooms. Originally and still, this breaching method had employed mental health experts and courts and people on and off corrections offices and the state judicial branch offices of Connecticut. Criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Criminal enterprises, private ones at the same time, the difference of that and identity theft, fraud, slanders, attaching people to fake to change words, fake ties to other people, fake natures of ties to other people, fake sequence knowing them. As people from Connecticut involved with the World Trade Center attack, location at the World Trade Center and at the building next to it, the Ninth Circuit Court. Increasingly, people involved with confessions years ago of ones named Cololo and DeMoro involved with Weathersfield Police, with other police forms, state police families, interstates, whole bunch of people involved with the colleges. So with the name Zano, there's a Jack Zano, a Paul Zano, and there were others with the name Zano involved with UConn, involved in Rhode Island colleges, involved with various natures of organized crime with child offenders, identity theft, fraud, slanders, planting evidences, fake ties to people, fake engagements to kids to fake locations, fake conversations with others. They also repeat the word Jew. The only time I ever saw him, he's repeating the word Jew practically. In other words, and the time where you're going to be make a fake exception. See that this used all sides in cases, the overt criminal enterprises, the private ones, and the interbranch at the same time. The difference of that interbranch and intelligence. There are intelligence campuses like fire campuses, people, intelligence families who have that who are some of the parents of kids at campuses. Some are the ones that work there. Some are the resource officers. Some of their family members. They share roles with malls and shopping centers, all along roads and routes, all along campuses of all ages and natures, criminally foreign influence people, and with the increasingly with the names next to them, speaking things where they use magic tricks, like true. In other words, people who never had communications, they're just putting everyone in fake communications anyway, and then they're going to jump up into conversations on Facebook, etc. Hide what came first, hide their actual motivations, because what's actually recorded shows the syntax in depositions, shows the syntax in criminal and in civil cases with names on all sides, and the victims and their victims' advocates appointed by courts, as we'll examine, as collusions at the same time with news and when intelligence companies next to the news locations. Increasingly, people tied to a Ray Reynolds are recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with every campus I went to with the intelligence community, with drugs and medicines, crimes with kids, identity thefts and frauds and slanders through the people supposed to be against that. And they're ratting on others for things, and then the people call them rat, and they're making it up. And when they use the word rat, it makes it sound like they're guilty. They have judges and prosecutors who have criminally foreign influence uses of all locations /s, where and how originally instilled good people are employed as evil people / hyper evil. Good people / hyper good people stay evil / hyper evil. There are answers to where and how other things, others ourselves, were blamed for the breaching method having assigned uses of the color black and white, tactical ulterior, from what nature is communicating to us with these colors. Yeah. So WFSB attached me to fake conversations with them about the World Trade Center. They have roles with a whole bunch of names next to the Connecticut State Judicial Branch offices as their sources. Also, on off the locations next to them, planting fake motivations for when they speak about, they have roles with the sources in cases and how they go back and forth. They have roles with seating juries, criminally foreign influence, the people who are seating the juries. They have manipulations of them leading up to the World Trade Center in that attack and sense, where the courts and all sides in criminal and civil cases are names involved, with names on off the World Trade Center attack in their homes, and people are tied personally, the neighbors, all kinds of the difference between adjacents and conjunctions to themselves. in other words, and their roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and then pretending passions and emotions, whining and needing to have debates about emotions to keep them used to describe, pretend other, but describe systems other, in relativity, tactical ulterior from what they're about. How they get this away with this too is the sequence shifts. There are constantly investigators being used, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. There are people with the intelligence community who had roles with abuses of people with the name Kerr, names like and tied to them, Kerr and Perone, with the St. Anthony's next to Fox Connecticut News. They have roles with foreign and domestic intelligence, overt criminal enterprises, foreign and domestic military, and people with the campuses attaching other kids that aren't even in the same classes to fake locations and ties to other people, and planting rules of war crimes and mail crimes, falsified police reports with the kids next to the kids that they're doing it against. And in a way, they're doing it against everyone because there are foreign bodies involved with them. Increasingly, a whole bunch of people on off Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University have roles in intelligence families and ones associated with them in a whole bunch of other different countries at the same time. That people from other areas come in and say things to me. And I ignored sometimes because I knew what they were doing because I recorded things that they shouldn't have hid, which were recorded more. So they're also, this is worse than extortion. So, but there are predators with medicines and with drugs associated with the campuses of New York City, distinctly, and families associated with it, retired and standing. And a bunch of probate, more than three family relationships, direct and indirect, to Town Line Drive. I mean, that too, but 2 Route Highway, where it runs into Hang Dog Lane and its conjunctions to that. Like, for example, 2 Route Highway, where it runs into the Berlin Turnpike, is increasingly involved with confessions and demonstrations. And I'm not the one, I swear to God, I'm not the one who started the fire at that building there. That was one of the DeMorals involved with the confessions regarding the Scaleras years before and regarding the World Trade Center. And then they were outside of it right before it with people who have been planting evidences all the way up, and they forced Saudis to rolls with them. And we know the Saudi attackers forced ourselves to rolls with them with the attack, as the coalition did. We never had possession of our name. /S, A through Z. So they have the people fighting. Holy God, like for example, when they speak about finances and logistics behind their reasons, or when they don't, when they use words like Africa. In other words, and the nature of debate and how people try to correct each other too. In other words, you guys left out black pupils. You left out the legal natures, black and white, tactically delusions raw, criminally foreign influence together collusions, systems tactical ulterior from our system, human body, species body. Pace, prepare. We can force mandate true right here. Connecticut courts have recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed collusions also with whiting forensics through time, with houses involved with child offenders at Sandy Hook campuses through time. It has something to do with tons of people at Hartford Hospital involved with the security there, foreign and domestic military, nurses, and doctors, foreign and domestic, putting fake things in their databases no one's looking into, including with judges, speaking fake things in records, foreign and domestic doctors, roles lying about what's recorded on Facebook with the agencies and with child sex offenders, leaders of the kids. A principal being is involved with a whole bunch of people like named Leahy and a police chief Cintron, and one or more years ago, involved with people with the name Cololo too. A Bob Chase has a Phil Cololo involved with them at Whiting Forensics. He made confessions about people with uses of the name Christine too, where they don't put the last names. They have a whole bunch of Christines involved with this Bob Chase too now. People all along Route 3 has intelligence community at Whiting Forensics, but with behavior racketeering worse than war crimes. Black pupils. They're going to speak for integrity, you suits and ties. Get down! Fall. They stand down or fall with fake branches and there see the Constitution. On the bridge will now proceed. The rest will just proceed. Will disbelieve. Have them pick one name and the sequence get on paper. One of the things that Connecticut intelligence and into the branch do differentially, they increasingly they self-value roles with it, is prevent writing so they can stack fake things in databases with their family members themselves, individually grouped it together. They use crime methods of faking conversations with us, and in those fake conversations, pretending we said that everyone's evil. Why they know they're doing that? They're just because there are numbers of people. So People have so there are people involved with both political parties, and the exceptions at Pennsylvania too. Further involved with the New York and the Hartford, Connecticut, and the Washington rolls. These are rolls on off Washington courts, hiding things from them sickly with the FBI Director Luskin, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants, Thaddeus Grabowski, on and off Fox Connecticut News, with a whole bunch of people tied to child offenders on and off campuses, identity theft frauds with their family members and neighbors, lying about themselves and others since they're kids. These are not people legitimately with you know with their behavior. What are they doing? Like with the military? Like, in other words, you're still criminally foreign influence. And then they pretend it's personal. It's nothing personal. Come out here. This is not to liberate black people. This is about to liberate humanity. This to use as positive, where people are calling the problem because it's black and pretending it's debatable. New York City is in a torture trap slash extortion trap slash fact cheaping nature slavery trap. The experts on reason, they charged me. I was there for $30. They charged the state thousands of dollars. And how I got into Social Security because I was being extorted before the World Trade Center attack. Hartford courts and the FBI and Weathersfield interbranch families. Timed collusion with a whole bunch of foreign and domestic military, overt criminal enterprises. Make confessions and demonstrations just like the people from my from community center. Fake things they put there. They put me in fake conversation ties to people there. And they'll tell you this too. You get them on paper. These are the ones involved with Fox Connecticut News and names next to them. Like there's a St. Anthony's Church, and there's a Russian lady there, and they have roles with a bunch of murders, and the differences between who owns it, when, and what, as people involved there with the judges and prosecutors, and people with the name Rick C.M. Faglione, who's involved. I know who's involved with names with the Weathersfield Police, planting evidences on all sides of my house, wire crimes with the break law, and they have drugs and medicines crimes with the Weathersfield Police and doctors and people at Hartford Hospital with child offender sexual and medical, the kids of judges and prosecutors and deans and principals of kids. Further, with the principal child abusers campus, has something to do with people tied to Mazzucato Bakery and white and modern pastry through time. And their roles with the English department at Central Connecticut State University and the intelligence community had conversations there, and their roles on off the Elm Street, and its roles with the Veterans Affairs Building, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. See how it's built like those tenements in Hartford? I mean, in New York City, which are right where it's easiest to discern the breaching methods involvements with that which is actually how it is actually manifest as America, and with the hyper forensics trail coming through forensics locations, keeping other things, others ourselves, blamed for what? The breaching method itself should have been blamed. Because it's increasingly rolls with killers and with killer thought. Look at the arts. They have, and then I was about free speech. I was just doing that. In other words, follow me now. Get me off the fake conversations about the World Trade Center attack with WFSB. They pretended, and they pretended I had conversations with others about that too, like with this Leahy family. They have roles with all kinds of sick shit. Excuse my language. Please get them out the paper. Please, Vice President Kamala Harris. I asked other Vice President Pence. I told them they should fear Pence. They should fear. Because, you guys can't fathom. Every campus I went to, this shows, even if they made up about President Kennedy, even if they made up about the witch trials, It was about that torture, extortion, slavery method, sickly distinctly against our founders. Sickly to keep how sickly non-distinctly left out, used to measure and maintain it left out by a whole bunch of additional motivations, natures, needs, interests, and then further as assigned employed and entertained and describing logic, describing reason, motivations. Now everyone's a psychopath who can't afford descriptions of or science by what emotions are about proper to be discerned. Our emotions are so we can sense. If the smallest, if we could sense if we're using other than that which is its system. This breaching method already employed. Other things, others ourselves, it blamed on the real cause of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Why are all the industries still on the water? The breaching method forced that before our founders were even born. Industry had to use that for travel. Why do we have because we have to compete with them economies, throw this and throw that. Excuse me. Well, economy has nothing to do with, in other words, why we're still in the I have to go like that. Okay, everyone we're in a red trap. Plus, we have to the breaching method assigned homeless populations. We're how an assigned identity, therefore names, consciously as systems tactical ulterior from the one that would demonstrate that. And again, it employed those demonstrations, blamed the other things, others themselves, and this is recorded. But you guys aren't following mandated law. And you're doing it with the news at the same time, collusions with the interbranch in all sides and cases. Then timed uses of that. There were untimely deaths in the past associated with the same house, involved with home break-ins in my area in the past, and one's more recent. And these are people that are trying to speak and put fake more. These are people that are victims, where everyone's speaking through others, and we're how they're building upon predicate acts with facts, as predicate acts with facts, methods, needs, and natures, where people want to have conversations with people, leaving out details and making them up, and or hiding them. And they want to pretend, then they want to be able to pretend they could get into a serious conversation about serious things like predicate acts, like child defenders, leaders of kids, like the police associated with them. There are more associated with the principal beings campus, and more obscure pictures on Twitter. The FBI has roles with that, and there are neighbors of and people associated, adjacent and conjunctions to people named Ian, who are also involved further into on and off parks and on and off houses on Fox Hill, and which is parallel to the Hangdog Lane and conjunctions to those. And that Hangdog Lane runs into Two Route Highway and other conjunctions and adjacents to it. Has something to do with their roles with the names next to the state capitol. Increasingly with people at Hartford Hospital involved with identity theft frauds, attaching little kids and their families to fake conversations with doctors, fake ties to doctors, and fake conversations about legal cases and organized crime. With and as people involved with federal criminals before they got caught, and those the various natures of organized crime themselves. Then they pretend it's only legitimately that they're undercover, but it's not, because they're using that to pretend people use drugs and we're in places they never were. And Anthony Agnew and others associated with Anthony Agnew have Jeremy Grohl have roles with spots next to the Weathersfield Community Center. I never saw them at the community center. Barely ever saw them next to there. These are people involved indirectly and directly with them. And then when there are exceptions, they're trying. These are people who bring people back and forth with issues where they make mistakes on purpose. In every case, too, whether they make the right outcomes or not, too, there's a difference of that is used. Don't forget that nature uses difference, and we have this distinctly from everyone else, even though non-distinctly too. So we have this means to discern. Please learn, but you got to stop with the identity theft, frauds, and slanders, and you're only allowed to defend yourself. And so they're preventing anyone, whoever you are, from using the hyper evidential. In other words, we have that the fact that we have black peoples and whites of eyes. The second the color thing comes up, you leave out the breaching method. We could discern. You guys are walking past this because of what I caught them doing with the each age of vacuum nature. So the first campus, I loved it. The one weakness, which was strength, too. No, but they interpret it as a weakness. They're incapable of speaking for weakness or strength. Americans, people A through Z, like little kids, you note this. We're going to change this, though, because it can be changed. So I had planned the whole way driving to the campus to, protest and do whatever to not have to go to school. The first time I was ever going to go to school. And so I figured, okay, I'll just. And it was private. So I was three. So we're just gonna enjoy. I'm gonna enjoy the ride there, and I'll wait right when I get there, and then I'll let him have it. And I'll say, this kid, he can't go to school. And so the lady said, oh, and then she said, oh, no, it'll be all right. And I was like, oh, I wasn't ready for that because she came right out to me. That's what they do. They come right out because otherwise you're gonna have time to do it. You're gonna rebel. The natural reaction. Some of the kids are gonna do it. Whatever. You could do it right and make them come in right, but then you're gonna have that phenomenon where people are gonna do little plots like that. And one of the reasons you're gonna have that is because from the youngest age we have means to discern. We're going through systems tactical ulterior from the one that's real. So in other words, please follow mandated law. These are some KKK theme too. There's a Justin Klavinskis. I never saw him out in my life. He's one of the ones um, with the military from Germany who has some KKK themed people involved with my neighbors, and they sought me out alone when I was in eighth grade, right before I was gonna go into middle school across the street from my house. And then I went on a ski 93 trip with them. We went Vermont and then Canada with a Mark Violet. He's one of the ones with Hartford Hospital for the domestic military. People involved with Cuba, involved with psychiatry, involved with criminally foreign influence, all our countries. And they're going to speak for a reason anyway. They're tortured, extorted, and factory nature enslaved, A through Z, suits and ties, counters, and exceptions. So there are a whole bunch of people from Central Connecticut State University and to Trinity College, intelligence communities and families from Wethersfield, who have roles with businesses next to Hartford Hospital through time, and with overt criminal enterprises associated with them, who have roles with things and names on off the state of Connecticut corrections offices, no, and on off the state judicial branch offices, involved with wire crime acts and methods with them. Identity theft, fraud since they're little kids, pretending legitimately to be. Sometimes it's them, the ones criminally foreign influence. Sometimes it's the interbranch they have roles with. A whole bunch of Newington police families and Wethersfield police families, retired too, and Rocky Hill ones, and Cromwell, mayor, and Wethersfield mayors, and family members, people work for them, and intimate ties, and things like that, associated with the names involved with the wire crimes of the Weatherfield police, and planting evidences on all sides of my house. Officer Jerry Miller is one involved with ones on Valley Crest and on Morgan Circle and on off the parks, planting evidences through time. Some of it is made up. And these are the ones who were in grammar school and middle school. I never had a class with them. Never saw them around the hallway. Then they put Joe DeMauro, Heather Hansen, and Ray Clough in a middle school, summer school class with me, with a Mr. Neville. There are people with the Mr. Neville and tied to a Mr. Neville. Has something to do on Facebook too with the Cromwell people. People in Cromwell involved on the street of the principal child defender with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me, with different ownerships of that of a bar there too. And when I, in other words, something to do with people on Highcrest Street use my name criminally foreign influence, lying about their motivations too, because they put fake things, they put stacked many falsified police reports, have connections, each single one of them, intercities. They have roles of murders, like the murder of Greg Kyler and his probation officer, and intimate ties to his probation officer. People involved with conversations with Tucker Carlson and um, Mr. Waters on off Trinity College, involved with the people with the intelligence community locations on Zion Street, demonstrated timed collusions with people from Afghanistan, people with the Los Solitos, people with other natures of organized crime groups, private and overt criminal enterprises involved with timed planting evidences, sequence shifts, identity theft frauds, behavior racketeering, fake motivations planting. In other words, I was in, and he used the word immature too. Something that they pretended like a fake fight or a real fight. It was hard to tell. That has something to do with Fred Grisey too, and his roles with modern pastry was lied to by people with a Fred Grisey and a Mayano family, and something to do with the houses next to the schools involved in planting evidences, identity thefts and fraud, slanders, where everyone's forced to speak through others because the people who are supposed to be experts on things like hearsay. They have involved with predicate acts with facts, federal evidences, crime methods, federal rules, crimes methods, and natures of criminal insidiousness, like wrongdoers, wrongdoing itself, criminal foreign influences. Pretending other too is annoying. With the religious spots, they have fake conversations with people about religions, with a whole bunch of medical families and doctors and nurses at Hartford hospitals and all the other hospitals, New Britain's hospitals, and they have roles with this, with intelligence community, with psychiatry, and with unmarked police forms that are speaking for law with judges, their family members. They have something to do with the spots next to Trinity College, all sides of it, with identity theft, frauds, planting, behavior racketeering. They're supposed to have integrity. They're pretending integrity. They're pretending that means for other reasons. They were shown to interpret the law by a breaching method. I think's for that. So they have a guy with the Democrats in Pennsylvania who's got those people with the databases involved with ERs, emergency rooms, where where we're supposed to be speak about the places all, and we're supposed to just focus on that and pretend we don't realize the rest is recorded. And they're pretending they don't realize, but it's recorded. They know they're criminally foreign influence. The Institute of Living was founded on the campus of Hartford Hospital in 1822, with slavery still entrenched north and south. Our founders told us instantly to get entrenched, get roles with undone and demonstrated. It knew that no one was going to be able to do that. So it forced them to fight with each other or lose the means to defend themselves. It forced within 13, more than 13 colonies, 13 of them, to be counter-extorted individuals, given no other way to help themselves, unless they did what the breaching method did, which would then would counter-extort everyone around them too, and then they would have to be unity together. There are proofs too that Native Americans might have enabled this themselves, because this had been sustained against them, had been perfected against them. They knew it best. And see president slash chief. See, today where it looks like they work together. 3 volumes. The Native Americans fighting against themselves. The founders fighting against themselves, but they came to unity enough to counter-extort the other founders who weren't Native Americans. And obviously, with some of the Native Americans' help, too. They told us this. President slash chief. And they communicated other than we have communicated for themselves. They had to leave in databases, entertain things about in nature, about their voices and what they would entertain and stuff that they wouldn't have entertained. The breaching method, as soon as unities or independence would emerge and speak, you're going to be speaking tactical terror from nature's system, what it wants to say. Otherwise, you're going to be sensed. We're using words like value. We're using how we are our systems. Tactical terror from how we are. In other words, we're not appreciating, for example, the difference between criminal insidiousness natures and positive treatments like peace, and the difference between peace and hyper peace, which hyper peace can be criminally foreign influence too. But there's a distinct identity of hyper simultaneous, that which is why and how, which is in its identity of relationship to itself and the only increasing value of that, which reveals why and how each of the species volumes has these quality aspects and natures to ourselves, common, like 2 eyes, like quality aspects and natures about the eyes, about consciousness, about the value of what actually came first, what the value of what came first. Programs appreciate the value of sequence and the value of simultaneous and the value of the hyper simultaneous. But they do not appreciate if the hyper simultaneous has positive and negative treatments, if they are positive or negative, much even let alone if they are positive and negative to hide the identity of the breaching method to each thing, let alone each person. And identity of a thing, like a breaching method, it has relativity to what is positive and negative simultaneously, as all things do. Because all things are manifest its difference and demonstration to us as our own. And how not, but anyway, when how it's making more and more of its identity of forever nature as that which connects, that which connects and is the 5 distinct parts of time. As one, the value of truth before the order of the finite. 2, the order of the finite. 3, the order of the active, what is now active grouped. 4, the order of progressive. We know to an extent of the future's value. And 5, there's an extent of the future we don't know about. But knowing that is truth. And those five distinct sequence natures of truth, they connect to the hypertruth. They can be positive or negative simultaneously or not. And then further, that could only be criminal insidiousness nature or positive. The only way to tell that is to keep its identity of relativity. Its identity of relationship to itself, and to keep the only increasing value of that simultaneously appreciated. It is an inseparable conjunction to every smallest finite detail distinctly. Not distinctly and simultaneously slash hyper simultaneously. So, in other words, Central Connecticut State University has a dean judge, and he has a kid involved with, you know, part of it they don't know. The foreign and domestic military make confessions about their roles with spots in West Hartford and in New Britain. To have roles with people on and off the state, on and off the Weathersfield Community Center and the town offices. Had roles with people with judges and prosecutors and their family members when I was a kid, and then as an adult, right before the World Trade Center attack. Again, and long term, way before that, in different ways, short term, as the ones from Connecticut involved on and off the World Trade Center, the spots next to it with the name Scalora, and their roles with the names on all sides of the case. In the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center, one of the cases that went before the panel of judges. It was proven after the World Trade Center attack. They had presented to the panel of judges post dated legal papers post dated from inside the court to appear to the court as if they'd been handed in late. But that was proven after the World Trade Center attack. These are also the roles with WFSB with World Trade Center attack predicate since. This is a Connecticut news company. People with the name Demaro also have people with the name Klotz involved with New York locations and news locations networks. There's an Eric Klotz, and I never met a Sean Klotz, and his parents are involved. And these are people with the FBI, with foreign and domestic nations. They attach Saudis to forced collusions with them. The people that put them and me into fake conversations with each other, and their roles with my sixth grade class. They have some girl from my sixth grade class, and others involved with that sixth grade class were involved with some mayors and their family members with predicate acts, also with people of the year before that, etc. Increasingly, like when I was in fourth grade, Sal Cerviello and his neighbors have roles with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, and that's increasingly being brought up. And they have their roles on Facebook. On the Facebook page of the Britain Superior Court, has people with the name KNERR, who's also involved with people with the name KERR on all sides of my house with an officer Jerry Miller, one with the name Dylan, and one's tied to them with the body with the spot of Billy Grasso, like with the confessions, like a Enzo Fienzo, as one on off the state judicial branch offices and houses next to it, as people involved with the Dan King and his mother and father, and a Rob Rodriguez, planting evidences on all sides of my house, on and off parks and fields. Also with Eric Oliveri and his brother. I never had a conversation with. And there's a Justin Stryker, who's one of the ones on off Trinity College with them too. I never seen Ray Colo on Trinity College. I've never seen one of the LOs on Trinity College, but they're recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with identity thefts and frauds and planting evidences with people on off courts and with mayors involved on off Trinity College and the spots next to it who have timed collusion with people from other nations. and as people involved with the name Scalora, that of Demoro and Colosse, I was their cousin. Weathersfield Police, some guy who forced himself through the door in my house. He made a threat to me about the name Scalora too, and he didn't use the whole name. Now they have a whole bunch of different Scaloras, interstates and foreign, involved with predicate acts on off the World Trade Center attack against me. Identity theft, fraud, slanders against me. False people were involved with their family with wire crimes at Weathersfield Police when I was a kid, and now as an adult. And these are people with Hartford courts and Rocky Hill courts. I mean, Rocky Hill, Hartford police families, Rocky Hill police families with the name O'Brien. These are people involved with Sandy Hook campuses. There's a Sandy Hook prison. The guy took my pants and walked out of the prison with it. I'm in a cage in there. The other guy said his name was, I believe he said it was, the guy, I believe he said his name was O'Brien. There's a Dennis O'Brien, a Tim O'Brien, Andrew O'Brien, and their mother. And they have family members apparently all along Route 3 through time. And their roles with private and public schools, where they're attaching kids to fake ties to kids they never see around campuses. Tim O'Brien made one quick exception and said something about his family being police to make it look like he was upset about something in a conversation that never was. Also, then the next year, uh, Mayor Gold's daughter pretended that she had a conversation with me to my teacher. She told me to give a letter to my father. My father he had a stamp of his name. I put it on there. I don't know what they told put in the database. There were constantly other ways they stuck fake things in databases. There's a Czech Casper. I never had a verbal conversation in my life. To Kamala Harris, please, whoever associated with the military with this Czech Casper, don't tell them don't be cowards and let me fight this punk coward involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and religious punks and predators against kids with mayors. These are medical and interreligious psychopaths with people's names, little fake coward punks lying about themselves and their others since they were kids. Has something to do with their roles with the buildings next to the state capitol, Miss Harris, and people with the name Violet and tied to the name Violet and Nick LaPera, and I don't know his brother's names. They have roles with the Weathersfield Police and the intelligence family and through time, intercities with this Ray Collo and with a Phil Collo that a Bob Chase. And Ray Collo's name is more than one person. And a Bob Chase brought up Phil Collo. Phil Collo was driving by recently, not too far long ago, this summer, I believe, this summer with his bicycle. He's further involved with violence on my street with child offenders too, and little coward cops in court switching and forging names, as the ones involved with the names in the World Trade Center and in the court next to it, involved with WFSB since with World Trade Center predicate acts too. This Leahy family pretended through the mail that they had conversations with me as people that work with the Hartford Hospital, involved with the policing and the doctors. And there's a Judge Killian who's involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids on Facebook too. And he's lying about putting speaking fake things in the records. Look at this fat pig, Kamala Harris. Get him on paper, one name and see working with this with the name Lombardo too, involved with the Cololo name and the Weathersfield Police and his neighbors, and there's people with this Chris Walters has something to do with the intelligence community's roles with Old Town Cafe too, with identity thefts and frauds, with overt criminal enterprises, private the intelligence community with them. The difference of that foreign and domestic military, the same ones involved with child offenders, identity theft, fraud, slanders, involved wire crimes, Weathersfield Police, Weathersfield Pizza. Weathersfield Pizza has something to do with the spots next to Trinity College and next to the campuses involved with identity thefts and frauds, and people on and off 2 Highway through time and conjunctions to it. with a whole bunch of probate court judges and their family members involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, something to do with their spots with the again with these people with the also with the boxing gyms. For example, there's a Delafair family who has roles with probate court judges, lying about themselves and others, attaching me to fake locations, fake ties themselves, fake ties to others, and trying to set people up with judges and prosecutors in foreign countries at the same time. Overt criminal enterprises, private ones. I never had a class with any of those Demora brothers. I don't even know them barely. The couple that I do, and they have their roles with intimate relationships with other probate court judges, family members, and roles with the war crime acts and natures on my street and narratives on the street through time than they used to be. The people with the name D. Simone and O'Brien further with the sexual and medical offenders of kids with their family members, where they're playing these games with women with I work women judges, black white women judges involved with some KKK themed, black themed military police switching names to the Weatherfield police involved with wire crimes. Where I had to raise my voice and make people call the police one time without telling them why. It's because I caught them doing this before that with the people I caught interstates with the World Trade Center predicate acts. The intelligence community has been planting evidences on off Yale Street in Hartford too, with the names with the Hartford advertisement for the Hartford working for the city of Hartford. They have roles with the intercultural racketeering, worse than war crimes involved. People that work with own a cafeteria in Mexico and involve people with Venezuela, people involved on off Trinity College with the other countries from Germany, people from Afghanistan, Afghan leaders and kids involved with Weathersfield town offices, the library, as people involved with the wire crimes with this police chief Cintron. He has a daughter named Jessica Cintron by the people involved with the confessions with the child abuses. There are some a whole bunch of ties to people that had conversations with coaches of sports teams and of like this Casper film. I never met a Chuck Casper, his father, and all that. Never had a class with him. He was involved with people with a Mr. Potter and a Potter family on off the state judicial branch office. Nothing personal against them too, even though they speak like punk losers. Delusions raw, evil on Facebook. They demonstrate things. So a whole bunch of people tied to a Mike Pandolf and a Ray Reynolds involved with as tools that were used by the others that forced Saudis to collusions with them. So writing forensics also has roles with people named O'Neill with wire crimes and planting evidences with the same houses since I was a kid. Bob Chase brought up the name Phil Cololo in his confessions. He was supposed to read a police report to me. I can't get them on writing. And then they try, in other words, then I went there to get it. Now they put a different police report. And then at the same time, they put me in a fake conversation. They put me in a quotation with Janito Mendez. Never had a conversation with in my life. They lied about what I said. And I communicated to the person who went there with me. See, they keep using the Saudi girl that was my wife. Increasingly, roles with people that went to every campus I went, sticking predicate acts against me. And it's not her fault. That's why I would flip out. I would get so mad while they're making confessions. These people involved with types of like when they have domestic problems, and where they have statistics regarding it. That those statistical campuses have roles with names that make fights between made people yet raise their voice, or if they don't say anything in the difference of that, they're exploiting that because the investigators never stop being used criminally for an influence. People from Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, when I was a kid, and since then, they increasingly have roles of predicate acts with the campuses intercities and with the names next to them. So it's in integral. It's important to get them onto paper, one name and sequence, and have them fear God because they should fear God now for making me beg so long. In other words, they would put fake emails and fake mail and faked letter on Trinity College and faked, you know, conversations with me as a kid. Now as an adult, as police, I never had a conversation with the police as a kid. The ones that did have conversations with them, they force tricked them to put all fake things in databases, and they brought up those organized crime conversations. And I never even partook with them. And this Leahy family and others at Hartford Hospital pretended I spoke about police surveilling my father and about legal cases where they had roles with the federal criminals in those cases before they happened. I never spoke with anyone in my life about police surveilling my father. They're out of their minds. Rick C.M. Faglione is also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. One of the ones involved with sexual and medical offenders of little boys and girls, with foreign and domestic prosecutors and their family members, and a Leahy family with it. Now there's a whole bunch of other people with other doctors with this Leahy family, and Anthony Ogden, who's involved with town offices intercities, and his brothers involved with the intelligence community, foreign and domestic, people with the Hartford Hospital and spots next to it, involved with all kinds of natures of organized crimes with kids and their roles with interreligious. They have roles with my algebra teacher with sexual abuses of, and per her, when she kept repeating about my neighbor's daughter kissing someone, and about how they're Jewish. They, as one of the ones with the Domain family, involved also. I never saw my street in my life at the Domain family. They have roles with like Jewish themed and inter roles with prosecutors and judges with sexual offenders and medical offenders of kids, identity thefts and frauds where they lie about themselves and others for through time. With a Mayor Gold, increasingly there's a girl, an Allison Mulcahy and her sister and family involved with a Mayor Gold and other people that live near them, like a Joseph Dennis, involved with drugs and medicines crimes, while technically delusions raw too. Criminally foreign influence, factory nature, quality aspects of nature. But I'm using the black pupils to demonstrate this. I'm not a lawyer, and their lawyers are planting evidences too, all sides in criminal and civil cases. There's a Trantola and Trantola who the intelligence community demonstrated is involved with them, and they confirmed they make up conspiracy theories. They change what people say to conspiracy theories. You need to have them fix the predicate acts of WFSB, fake conversations with me. While they did that, also as collusions to force child offenders, principal leader of the kids, and more parents had roles with that. There are people with police forms with the name O'Neill involved with state police and whiting forensics, further with their kids, and people with the name Bajerio, further with the kids, involved with identity planting evidences with foreign bodies and medical offenders of kids. People on off the state Weathersfield, the state corrections offices and the state judicial branch offices involved with the ones with the name Cololo and Demoro and people tied to them. And with this name, there's a Lance Cuddy and there's a Daryl Sullivan and people along Park Street and its conjunctions involved with a Daryl Sullivan with my sixth grade class has also people from Russia with the name Peruta, planting evidences at the corners of the streets, increasingly connected through time. Something about their uses of the corners of the streets next to schools, with people involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and fake and news planting, timed collusions with their doctors. There are doctors at Hartford Hospital and their patients and criminals recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with people with the name Pierce, involved further with next to the schools with medical offenders of the kids and attaching their kids and family members to fake conversations with themselves and others, fake ties to themselves, fake natures of ties to themselves. There are increasingly investigators of all natures being and having been used criminally for an influence. So Central Connecticut State University has been graduating state police and people like that, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions rot. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, has New Britain Parks involved with them. And with the names, there are people with the name Gill, and people, there are neighbors of a Gill family on Covington Street in New Britain that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have roles with names next to Trinity College and with names on my street from Weathersfield through time, with identity theft, fraud, slander, sequence shifts. I didn't know who who Kyle Gill was and Tanya Gill and their parents till after I graduated Central Connecticut State University, and the World Trade Center attack had already happened. They already sought me out as strangers at different points to try to plant evidence that record, confess, demonstrate, confirm their role since before they were adults, with people from Weathersfield involved with abuses of kids intercities, as people involved with school resource officers and with Hartford police families, like departments in Rocky, they're all with connections. So there are Newington locations. There is also a roommate of a Ray Colo who's involved with the ones with the courts and a Rick Sam Faglione who have been others on off the Russian lady with intelligence, identity theft, fraud, slander, roles with criminally foreign influence, investigators, and uses of instances there at courts with involved with criminally foreign influence uses of those locations there, and all instances that come before them since founding. Forgiveness is not to leave out correlation by all the ways the three branches of government and the difference between that or the guilt of the rest of the intelligence, where that's relative at the same time with the breaching methods of employments of black and white, still unspoken for black pupils. Everyone's speaking for their jobs dishonestly. What they think about other people's arguments because it's how people make their money. Get down. Get them out of our conversations about acts. Everyone's changing when people speak about predicate acts. Fix the fake news, WFSB. They have to lie about what I say clear and what I say unclear in my syntax. They have to because this is relative to where and to how they have the policing of the internet and the company's own policing, criminally foreign influence. The difference of that. See, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, he has roles with names on off Connecticut's District Court, who also have roles on off Two Rod Highway and Hangdog Lane with identity theft, fraud, slanders. I don't know at all. And ones that only know that they went out of their way to plant evidences, fake roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases where that is employed. Because then there's timed uses of it. Has something to do with all along Route 3 and Route 175. The intelligence community with all the nations in the news, criminally foreign influence. So the name Peruta, houses and police departments associated with the name Peruta have some Russian families. You have people from Puerto Rico and other countries associated with a Darren Sullivan, involved with sequence shifts, and names involved with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his lawyers' offices, and names and uses of spots next to his lawyers' offices, like the Harry Beecher Stowe / Mark Twain houses together there, and the spots there, all along those roads and routes. The suburbs were designed before our founders were born, tactically to nature. The nature of debate about this. You guys, I'm gonna have to teach you guys what delusions are about. First, you have to learn about the truth first. For example, a breaching method stained on Native Americans, then the smallest fighting detail of America's republic began to be erected and erected out of what makes the Constitution unabridged as its value, incapable, not permitted. All formal identities of law, you know, were still collusions with the formal breaching method. They had collusions with the difference of that overt criminal enterprises, private ones. all kinds of additional causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, natures used to hide its own reason. Descriptions proper show us its own and on how to deal with the rest. I taught best vaccines like that. We come together. We change the identity of the relationship to the water's identity of the relationship to itself. Like that, we change the opinions in the minds of the people with wealth. There are distinct natures of wealth, and where and how we show the ones that can't change, and why and how that is being has been used remotely. So it's even better. There is nothing we cannot afford, and space means come out of nowhere. We're still in the scale of infrastructure again, designed for the torture, extortion, and factory miniature slavery of our founders, sickly distinctly from everyone else. And we don't have time for anyone to pretend their job or title with their motivations and syntax, you know, is evidence. Let's get them to make it. They're making opinions about when people bring up predicate acts. When did the interbranch not be criminally foreign for low spots? They said Judge Napolitano said in one of his videos on Judging Freedom YouTube channel. There's a YouTube channel named Judging Freedom by Judge Napolitano. He said, I couldn't believe it when I heard it. I didn't believe it. And one day, when he was first becoming a judge, too, he had 400 different arraignments. That means someone got arrested. Okay, have the court settle it. They bring it before the court. They've been bringing things before the courts as collusions since founding. And when there's differences too, that's also another one. There's roles with predicate acts with facts, and then people took their oaths. Those roles with predicate acts with facts are roles consciously preventing little kids from using and speaking about how they can use correlation. How about how we know it. We know we didn't want against Native Americans. And now that we have the means, like in the 80s, we had the means, we felt like we were free. And now let's make it no longer suburbs tactically denatured. Let's, in other words, you're supposed to make paradise. You're not supposed to have to fly to some fake paradise island. You know what I'm saying? Still rolls with slavery, keeping blame on other things other than themselves. What has it there, including factory miniature slavery, including people with wealth. The richest people who were speaking for the law as black, white rolls with that. They're factory miniature slaves. Nature will demonstrate these of IDs. You guys stay systems are there. Not you guys. I mean, the people on the other end, the people playing games with my name and preventing me writing since I was a kid, lying about their motivations for the arrest rolls, switching names as officers on falsified police reports, all kinds of scams with all kinds of demonstrable legal racketeering, demonstrably pension cram downs and things like that associated with the scams that the lawyers at Hartford Hospital also have roles with them, planting evidence as fake motivations, tactically delusions raw too, and their narratives in sequence as influenced by people from off those locations. So these are hyper extraordinary. We need a hyper extraordinary writ of mandamus, and nature shows us how to write this. Three natures of statute: the ACE Act, the Anti-Hyper-Archetypal Criminal Enterprise Act, the Anti-Criminal Insidiousness / Hyper-Criminal Insidiousness Act, and the Anti-Breaching Method Value / S Act. We can agree on this as a species volume to counter hyperarchetypal criminal enterprise, and or who won't. because we have means like that instantly to better than free, claim and then fix the tactically denatured grounds identity of relationship to itself and the only increasing value of that hypernative pure vaccine. Like you just did. We could immediately start by developing and then donating half to Native Americans and half, you know, we should have to think about it more. We have to make a hyper tribe. See, president slash chief. And nature shows us how the human species volume science is the peak one because of the one that will only stay as itself. Why and how each of the species is distinct, non-distinct, simultaneous, but also hyper simultaneous. So Miss Riley, I never had a personal conversation with her. She was used to plant fake motivations and for behavior racketeering worse than war crimes and religious crimes with men and women who are involved with sexual offenders of kids and medical offenders who have timed roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, even if and when how, even with their acting coaches, not legitimately. They have hyper illegitimate. So Ray Colella was pretending he used the word immature. There were people spying on me in Britain tied to Ray Colella. He typed that on YouTube. And I was using a kid's voice. I was like, no, that's Ree's voice. But I was doing that because already, before I even moved, was in that location, which I was called there because the girl was scared. See, even though they're trying to, there are proofs that a Kyle Gill studied how to be undercover police for him. And he might have taken, like, because it might have been why how the name, the word, or value, Ebonics. Elena Davenport used the word Ebonics with me. And she has roles with people like a Heather Hansen, who was involved with people with home break-ins in my area. More than one. And like with people with the name Demaro, who's involved with the names Cololo and Scalora, with the World Trade Center predicate acts with the Weathersfield Police, that were timed with the WFSB, attaching me with fake conversations with themselves and with other about the World Trade Center attack. And don't forget, I was in the Ninth Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center right before the attack. I came back to Connecticut and saw that we had been attacked there. And the Scalora had been there. One of the Scaloras had been there. And apparently she's related some way to a Summit Scalora, but also to a Joe DeMauro. She told my Saudi friend that she had sex with her cousin named Joe DeMauro. She's involved with Santeria, whatever. She has intelligence community on off West Farms Mall, on off with the people on off Elm Street and Rocky Hill, and spots next to it. Involved with Central Connecticut State University through time with people on off campuses, intercities, like planting fake ties and natures of ties between kids. As people involved with the home break-ins, with her cousins, people that she had sexual relations with, as people who have former director of the FBI and his co-defendants who court confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with them with their federal evidences crimes. Those are the people who had conversations with my principals and deans of my and families of the deans of campuses I went to. So there's a Joshua Stryker who has roles lying about himself and others. Since I was a kid, I never had a class with Joseph Stryker. Once when I was a kid, the only time I saw him on my campus, And once when I was adult, the only time I saw him on campus at Trinity College, it was after someone made a confession, and the next day he's sitting there and made nonverbal. Please, if he's military too, I never, in other words, he made up things about me, and with girls he lied to about me, and with people with the intelligence community at 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike, whole bunch of other countries, and the family members of probate judges, increasingly involved with that spot, with names on next to the state capitol, and those clubs there, those bars or whatever, the different ownerships and the narratives by that. Fox News has rules with shootings there they can't be honest about now. Sickly distinctly from WFSB, sickly distinctly from WTNH, involved also with email crime, digital crimes, and other wire crimes with the FBI and with the Weathersfield Police and the Rocky Hill Police families and the Newington Police families involved at the same time, Hartford Police families. Also, ones with the name Eric Jensen have roles with the state police families, the FBI, and the people that were planting roles on off the state judicial branch offices, and with the names off the corrections offices, interstates, who had conversations with their teachers. And my teachers criminally foreign influence, time, class placements involved with sequence shifts. Their roles were identity thefts and frauds with names next to the mayors and associated with them through time, and with names next to the state education offices. On off the Board of Education people, there's people with the name Riley, who have some of a Jewish community centers people roles further with judges, including black, white, female judges, further with some KKK themed, Confederate flag themed, black themed, predators of kids, with the principal upskirt nature more on Twitter with them, with the FBI too, on the principal Bean's campus. They force that. They have their own kids' roles with it. They have a Brian Silver and a prosecutor Soulsby through time. Whole bunch of people are Soulsby hurt. Now, one of the Gill family also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed a Soulsby was involved with various natures of abuses of him. Said half joking, but it was also real too, sexual. They have sexual relationships with the intelligence community at the campuses. There are also foreign and domestic criminally foreign influence and fake too. They're planting evidences with people with New Britain medical locations, Hartford Hospital, involved with the Gill family, with the ones with the name Cololo and CM Faglione on off Covington Street since before I lived there. And rules with how I got on that leasing agreement. I don't even know the people's names. They're involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, the leasing agent, and the differences between the involvements of them and the people who work for the building, and then how they have to do new people. These are also people with the foreign and domestic military involved, and fire departments. Fire departments have roles with Russian families. One of them, I don't know her name. I don't know, maybe it was a Peruta, but people with the name Peruta on off Hartford Hospital with foreign and domestic countries involved with them. It was a Thomas Peruta who was in my sixth, who was involved with one of the teachers further when she was in my sixth grade class with confessions regarding a Lance Cuddy, who didn't even go to my school apparently. I never saw him around. I think he went to a school on another side of town. I don't even know where he lived. He has other brothers too, apparently. He has roles with bitches that made confessions about a Park Street. There's a bar on Park Street, like Alina's Pizza, and there's like a tiki bar there. And there's a Daryl Sullivan, people with the FBI and other agencies, foreign and domestic military, involved with judges and prosecutors, their family members, Hartford courts, and the FBI and their co-defendants, foreign and domestic military, They planted evidences at West Hartford locations. They have facts confessions, demonstrations, confronted. There are proofs there too. There are pictures taken of me at Central and Trinity College to hide what came first. And they have the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, the difference of that involved. They have a whole bunch of people tied to the names. Kolvinskis and Violet too. I should have the right to fight. I want the ones on paper further involved with this Joshua Julian, like Violet and Cololo, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have roles with federal crimes with evidences, identity theft and fraud, slanders with a Joshua Julian, and he confirmed on Facebook. I didn't even tell them they said that. I didn't even know them. They repeated his name to me. The intelligence community has people repeat things where they use names. They use corners of buildings and streets, make it look like people have fake conversations that never were. They lock people into their fake motivations with that too. Soundview has a whole bunch of people tied to this Mazzucato family. There's a Mazzucato family involved with the Mazzucato bakery, and their roles with that corner of the street on Franklin Avenue, all along Franklin Avenue, and people on Elm Street at the corner of Elm Street and Route 3 in Rocky Hill. Years before they lived there, a police chief Cintron, who has a daughter named Jessica Cintron, reportedly demonstrably. I never saw her, never was around her. Involved with a Jonathan Mayano, and my neighbors involved with wire crimes accident methods with them. Also, ones with the name Smith, and people involved with the Stop and Shop along the Burlington Turnpike in Hartford, Weathersfield, and the one in Weathersfield, Rocky Hill, involved with managers of the Stop and Shops and the policing of the those locations and malls, involved with wire crimes in Weathersfield police town offices, people with the Afghans, involved with intercities, predicate acts, with the wire crimes as the intelligence families involved, and fake motivations, timed collusions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, pretending people it's personal and pretending hate at the same time. As kids, as collusions with adults too. With the assignments, they're speaking for adult, they're out of their minds. They're tactically delusions raw too. So a whole bunch of people with the Britain Superior Court have roles with the Leahy family, with some judges named Smith and black and white women judges. Further, with some KKK themed people on my street, increasingly involved with the name Cololo, and people from Hartford Hospital involved with federal crimes with them, with this name Oliveri, Demoro, and their roles with the names next to those location. Also, this ILO planting evidences with mayors and people involved with the corner of the streets involved, planting on Facebook too. So please respond for them because the fire departments have their numbers obfuscated, etc. Look at the Weathersfield police. Like if you try to look you're directed to the town offices, and then they have only one person with an email address. They have a whole bunch of other police forms involved with wire and mail crimes and digital crimes with them planting fake emails with other police forms and other police departments. They should fear God now with the get it on paper. Let's get them on paper, please. Military, don't hide this from Kamala Harris, and fear God too. Fear God too. Get them on paper, you little cowards. Get them on paper now. One name and sequence at the branch. Let's go. Let's go. Now, let's go. I'll show you what to do.